Good morning. It's October 17th, 2024. We're critiquing the news. The articles on your screen are from the Cairns Post. They're letters to the editor. And the letter that I would like to unpack here today is called Coal Call Hurts Us All by Sue Pearson of Mission Beach, a suburb that averages about 2 metres above sea level. Now, to quote, "It is deeply concerning that David Crisafulli's announcement to keep coal-fired power stations open indefinitely shows no real plan to tackle climate change." So Sue is deeply concerned about the continuation of baseload power because we know that we simply can't afford the number of batteries we'd need or the number of wind towers and solar fields that we would need to be able to switch to solar and wind-based electricity. In fact, no country has done it, no city has done it, and they even tried at King Island in Bass Strait and failed, and that's a very windy place. To continue, if the L&P refuses to transition away from coal, the burden of emissions reduction will fall disproportionately on agriculture, transport, and other industries. So Sue's whole fear here is that coal-fired power station emissions somehow cause global warming. In fact, they don't. I've unpacked this in another video. First principles laws of physics prove that CO2 can't trap heat. It can merely slow it down for a billionth of a second at altitude that's far too high for that energy to be able to in any way impact on surface temperatures. Additionally, Australia is a carbon sink because we have a vast area of ocean reserves and a vast area of grassland and bushland, which absorbs, because plants consume CO2 as food, absorbs somewhere around 6 times the amount of CO2 we produce. In fact, other countries should be paying us, if CO2 were a problem, to absorb their CO2. But anyway, that's not part of the narrative from the media and the political brainwashing industrial complex. So to continue, these sectors won't be able to make up the reduction in emissions that closing coal plants would have provided. And as we'll touch on in a minute, coal plants closing in Australia makes no difference to the total CO2 flux in the atmosphere on planet Earth. This decision has severe implications for North Queensland's economy, and actually Sue couldn't be more wrong. The severe implications for North Queensland economy would come directly from closing the coal-fired power stations. Coal emissions are a leading cause of climate change, which is factually and evidentially untrue. If it were true, we would have seen some of their forecasts, some of their predictions come to pass, but we haven't, none of them. 50 failed predictions since 1988. Major, there's a whole lot of minor ones too. So she believes that CO2 emissions from Australia's coal-fired power stations drive up ocean temperatures, which just proves she knows nothing about the electromagnetic spectrum or about how infrared radiation cannot penetrate water. The very best it can do is evaporate off the top micron or so, which actually has a net cooling effect in the same way that sweat evaporating from your skin has a cooling effect. She's worried about acidification, which fuels coral bleaching, and in fact the ocean is basic and it's not acidifying. At the very best you could say it's becoming very slightly less basic, but well, coral needs dissolved CO2 to build its shells, so less CO2 in the water would actually be very bad for coral. So she's got that backwards too, which is to be expected of someone who's either gullible or brainwashed. Either way, she knows nothing about chemistry or physics. And she continues, without urgent climate action, the very foundation of our tourism industry and by extension our economy is at risk. No, what puts tourism at risk is a reduction in prosperity, because without prosperity, people can't afford to be tourists. And on top of that, you can't run tourist boats to the reef on renewable energy and chemical batteries that are very prone to bursting into uncontrolled fire if they happen to become immersed in salt water, or the corrosion that comes with the salt, the marine environment. So the L&P's plan doesn't just threaten our natural wonder, it endangers the future livelihoods of all North Queenslanders. And again, Sue couldn't have this more backwards. But it's the misinformation, disinformation industrial complex that comprises the universities, the media corporations, and the globalist-aligned Labor Liberal political uni party that have all been infiltrated and subverted by the extreme left over the past 90 years that have indoctrinated Sue with this belief system. In fact, that global warming indoctrination campaign, based on false science and arm-waving assertions, has never met any definition of evidence-based science because none of the predictions have come true and none of its equations can be brought into balance when all the factors that contribute to climate are adequately considered. And of course, it leaves out a whole lot of the electromagnetic interaction between the sun, the galaxy, and the planet in order to get their attribution for CO2 warming. So, considering some of the predictions that have failed, the winters are still cold, the ice caps didn't melt, the seas didn't rise 2 metres by 2000, the rain and snow never did stop falling, the rivers still run, the dams still fill. Remember old climate expert Tim Flannery, who actually trained on prehistoric kangaroo dung, somehow became a climate expert from that. I'm a mammologist. He said that in 2007 on Landline, I believe, that the rivers wouldn't run, the dams wouldn't fill, and of course the following year I think we saw major floods. And of course we still don't die from the heat each summer, and in fact you can live in the middle of the desert with reliable electricity and air conditioning, and you can have 50 degrees every day and you're not going to die because of the wonder of hydrocarbon molecules. Nonetheless, we see left-wing activists and gullible people with the memories of goldfish chanting the global warming dogma that has all been debunked by the simple passage of time. How can you have a functional memory and still believe this nonsense, given so much that hasn't come to pass? These things have been splashed all over the front page of the Cairns Post for years and every other controlled corporate media outlet. Yet people, these forecast dates come and go and they just don't seem to tweak that they were lied to. Now, even if their bizarre claims about coal-fired power stations were based on facts, shutting ours down won't make any difference when China has 1,147 gigawatts of operating coal-fired power capacity compared to our 22 gigawatts. China has 53.95% of global capacity. We have 1.03%. China's has increased 267 gigawatts from the Paris 2015 Paris Climate Accord. Ours has gone down by 5.3 gigawatts. China has 421 gigawatts of coal-fired power capacity under development, whereas we have just 0.95 gigawatts under development. So closing more coal-fired power here just further crushes our economy, increases our cost of living, places city people at real and imminent risk of death from a grid collapse, and won't make one iota of difference to any of the alleged problems described by poor brainwashed Sue Pearson. However, the media wing of the misinformation-disinformation industrial complex will prioritise self-destructive dogma from ill-informed individuals like Miss Pearson because it suits their agenda. They won't publish evidence-based rebuttals from people like me, and goodness knows I've tried, because that would harm their agenda. And they are a brainwashing outfit. They're a propaganda unit of the globalists who want to control all of us. It's just a shame that the News Corp's staff who are currently in the jobs at the Cairns Post can't see that they're destroying their own future and that of their children by facilitating the ongoing brainwashing of the public.